everyone. What's going on? How's everybody doing today? Hope you're having a great day or week so far, depending on when you are listening to this. And thank you for continuing to rock with your boy. If this is your first time listening, I just want to say thank you, taking time out of your day, evening, morning, whenever you're listening to this, because you could be doing anything else. So thank you for that. And if you've been continuing to rock out with us, thank you so much for continuing to listen each and every week that I'm posting and things like that, and just hearing where I feel like God is placing different topics and things on my heart. So without a further ado, oh yeah, and also make sure you're liking, make sure you share, make sure you share the YouTube or Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to. Make sure you share it and like it and stuff like that because it really helps out. So first and foremost, just subscribe as well because that really helps out as well when it comes to this. So today I kind of wanted to talk about wisdom, right? And I wanted to talk about it in a way because this podcast episode, I know the title kind of sounds confusing. It says you can't have wisdom without the do. And the word do is in wisdom, right? So I'm saying is that you can't have wisdom without doing things to help you have wisdom. So that's pretty much what I'm meaning, but I'm like why I'm saying it. So I kind of want to go over real quickly, like why is it important to have wisdom? Why is it important to, talk about where wisdom comes from and things like that to help us out? Because at the end of the day, like the decisions that we make in our lives can really boil down to one decision that we make, right? There's been people whose lives have changed forever for the rest of their life because of one decision they make. Whether it's a relationship that they'll never get back, whether it's their freedom they'll never get back, or ultimately even their life is done, right? And they'll never get back. So I think it's really important to make sure that we are being wise, thinking before we act. Because a lot of the time we live in a society and a culture where we are thinking, we're reacting more than thinking. Or as soon as something happens, we're acting more on impulse. And then a lot of the time we act out of our emotion without really thinking and analyzing. We will always make the wrong decision that way most of the time. So I really want to talk about how we can have wisdom, what wisdom looks like, and why it's important for to have wisdom to really help us really throughout the course of our life. Because if we can learn to have wisdom, because the thing is, it's not about not making mistakes, right? That's not what it's about. That's not what wisdom is about. Wisdom is learning how to analyze and to process and eliminate and to do all these things before we make a decision. Or if we do make the wrong decision, having wisdom is also learning from the mistake we made so that way we won't repeat the same thing. That's also having wisdom. So I want us to really learn how to analyze and not just to act or react off of emotions or off of impulse, but to actually analyze and things like that. And I know that's not the easiest thing to do a lot of the time because things happen quickly. Someone might disrespect you, someone could have hit you, somebody could have did some things to you that sometimes you can't react in a certain way. I get it. You can't react, like it's hard for you to think sometimes, right? But I'm trying to help, give us more easier steps to have more wisdom and things like that in our life to help us. And real quickly, let's go over some stuff, right? So when it's coming to wisdom, let's learn about the foundation of where wisdom actually comes from, right? And let's look up let's look at Proverbs. Hold on, let me share my screen for the people who's watching on YouTube. I want to share my screen real quick. So let's look at Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7, where Solomon says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction." Right? So, if you want to look here, right? So, what Solomon is saying is the fear of the Lord, right? Fear of the Lord is not meaning like, oh, you need to be petrified, right? Or you need to be like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? It's not what it means. But it means to have honor, respect, complete reverence of the Lord, of God. Having complete honor and respect of him, right? And having the honor, the respect, and obeying the Lord, that's the beginning of the knowledge. That's the foundation of knowledge, meaning God. God is the foundation of our knowledge. He's our foundation. He's where knowledge actually comes from. He's all-knowing. He's everywhere. He's, omnipresent, omniscient, all the, big words and things like that. He's all-knowing. He's everywhere. He's smart. He knows everything, right? So really, when it comes to us having knowledge, We need to make sure that we are going to the person who's the foundation, the beginning of knowledge, the one who knows it all, the smartest, wisest person that we know, and that's God Himself. That's Christ Himself, right? Because ultimately, without Him, we won't be able to have any type of wisdom at all, right? And that's going to Him. That's having a relationship with Him. That is praying to Him, right? Things like that. So it's important for us to understand where the foundation and where knowledge actually comes from is God. And sometimes we can lose sight of that because a lot of times we get in our own way. We get in our own way. We like to think that we know more than that we actually know, right? And actually, my bad. I don't want to skip the part, but I want to get into the next part, right? So, the next part to help us to have wisdom and to do wisdom is first, understanding who has the foundation of wisdom, meaning God Himself, right? That's foundational wisdom of wisdom. It's Him, right? So, realizing that to help us do that, right? So, next is look at Proverbs chapter 3, verse 7, where Solomon says, "Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil." So it's plain and simple right here. Be not wise in your own eyes. Honor and respect the Lord. Turn away from evil. Turn away from certain sins and stuff like that. So He's letting you know that do not only be wise in our own eyes, because a lot of the time we have tunnel vision. We can't always see the right thing to do all the time. We can't, right? And I like to kind of like think about it, like for instance, right? Like growing up as a kid, when your parents always made something out, like, well, be careful because this might happen, or be careful because that might happen, or you know what, you shouldn't do this, or you know what, I'm telling you no because of this, right? And growing up, you might have thought, or whether it's a parent or some older sibling, or whoever, right? You always think like, oh my God, why they're so like, oh my gosh, they're such a party pooper. Oh my gosh, why you always thinking negative? Oh my goodness, like, and and it took me a while to figure this out myself. But the thing is, it's not about them being negative. It's not about them not wanting to have fun or anything like that. They are reminding you of possible outcomes that can happen. And a lot of the time, we're just focusing on one thing. We're just thinking of tunnel vision. We're just looking at one time, and a lot of the time, we can't see the blind spots, right? Because sometimes we can only look with it like this, and we can't see the things that are around us. And people like your parents or your guardian or whoever, like whoever that can see around that, they're letting you know that every possible outcome to give you wisdom to make sure that you're being knowledgeable of it before you make a decision, right? So they really have your best interests at heart. So remember not to be wise in your own eyes, because we don't know everything. We're not the smartest. We're not the brightest in the world. We need other people's opinions. We need other people to talk on a situation. I'm not saying to tell everybody, but the best way to try, to make sure we're having wisdom and making wise decisions, stuff like that, is realizing that we cannot be only wise in our own eyes. All right. So another thing to go over as well. Let's look at Proverbs. We Proverbs up because obviously that's the book of wisdom, book of wisdom, right? So obviously you don't be up here. So if you look at Proverbs 16:16, Solomon says, "How much better to get wisdom than gold? To get understanding is to be chosen rather than silver." Right. So Solomon is saying wisdom is more valuable than silver and gold. Like that's because I mean, like in ancient Near East time and stuff like that. Like obviously, what seemed important or what showed value and worth was silver and gold, right? Those type of things, right? Where today it could be, what kind of cars you got, or how much money's in your bank account. It could be other jewelry and things like that. It could be what else? Where you work at. You know what I'm saying? Like there's different things to show that your value in worth, right? Or when you balling out at the restaurant. Like, no, there's different ways to show your value and things like that. And Solomon is saying here, it's much better to get wisdom than gold, to get understanding to be chosen rather than silver. Like it's better to have wisdom than these things. Like think about when it came to even himself with Solomon, where God told him, like, look, or they, like like you can have anything, and he chose wisdom because obviously when you have wisdom, you can make the right decisions to obtain the things that you like, right? Wisdom could be the start of a lot of different things in your life. Like if you're wise, silver and gold won't matter because you'll have stuff that's even more valuable and worthy to silver and gold because of your wisdom helping you get these things, not by anything else. So we got to remember how valuable wisdom actually is. Sometimes we don't really value as much how we don't really value as much how important wisdom actually is. Like we think about it, we want to be wise and stuff like that, but we don't put a lot of emphasis on it. And Solomon's reminding us of how valuable and how better it is to have wisdom than pretty much every other thing. So we got to keep that in mind, right? So let's keep that in mind, right? That how valuable wisdom actually is. And then also, lastly, another last thing to think about when thinking about wisdom to help us do wisdom is James chapter 1, verse 5. And this is James, Jesus' brother. And he says, if any lacks wisdom, okay, he said, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God who gives generously to all who are all who without reproach, and it will be given to him. And you gotta think about it. This is James in the beginning of the letter, and he's writing to other believers, Jewish believers that are scattered or they're dispersed and scattered because of persecution and things like that. So he's writing to them. So in chapter 2, he's talking about in chapter 2 of this, I'm sorry, in verse 2, chapter 1 of this, right? He's talking about testing your faith, right? So he's talking about testing your faith. He's saying, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete. And like, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith with no doubting, for the one who doubts is like seeing a wave that Jim talks about. All right, so I just want to give you the context of what he's talking about here, because he's talking to Jews who are facing Jewish believers in Christ who are facing persecution at this time, and they're scattered. And he's talking to them, and he's talking about testing of your faith, right? And he's telling you to count it all joy we meet various trials, because producing your faith produces steadfastness, right? So in this predicament, having wisdom is important. When they're facing persecution, they're facing all these different things because of them believing in Jesus Christ, right? So Paul is encouraging them that that testing of your faith, like these hardships and things that you're going through, actually produces steadfastness that you're going to need throughout the course of your journey and your walk with Christ. And that if you have, if you're lacking wisdom on how you should do this, if you're lacking wisdom on your boldness, if you're lacking wisdom in the stuff to help you persevere through these things, ask God and he will give it to you. So in the midst of our own stuff that we got going on in our life, we got to think too, right? Like whatever stuff that you're going through in your life, there's various things that we all go through. We all go through various different stuff. We all go through things that we have to make a decision on. And a very important decision. We all go through things that, sometimes sometimes it's just we answer it too quickly. Or we'll put a lot of thought into it. And we should put more thought into it. Like actually be serious, no matter how big or small whatever the decision is. It could be something small as should I do this week instead of Mondays because I'm I got a lot of stuff going on Mondays, or I should do this on Wednesday because I got more time. Or even the small decisions like, oh, should I hang out with this person because all they do is get high all the time, right? All they do is they don't really do nothing. They don't do anything to progress their life. Like, should I continue to hang around them? Like stuff like that. Like whether big or small, we need to be conscious in making those decisions. Right? And making those decisions. So, real quickly, I want to wrap up with this because I don't want to take, too much time. I don't want this to be a super, super long episode, but like get straight to the point, honestly. So, when it comes to making decisions, right? There's two things we gotta, or having wisdom. There's two things we gotta think about, right? Before we make decisions, first and foremost, we need to include God in our decisions because his will is greater than our will. He has his best interest for our lives, even for what we have, even in our own lives. And not to mention, he knows all. Like, he's the creator of the universe. So, you should be going to him first with whatever decision and things that you're making in your life, right? So, Also, we should also be going to other people, other trusted people, just not anybody. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell the yes man in your life. Don't tell the people who's going to agree with you, but tell people who are experienced, people who are not biased, people who will hold you accountable, people who will keep it real with you, people who actually love you and give you the honest truth that you actually need. Go to them to get honest assessment of your situation, right? Give them honest assessment of your situation. Like, look, should I be doing this? Or what do you think about this, right? And get their honest perspective because a lot of the times, like I said earlier, we have blind spots to a lot of the stuff and we can't think and see things clearly a lot of the time. So it's really important for us to make sure that we're seeking counsel. That we're not always making, and I'm not saying for every single decision, you gotta go hit up your mentor or something like that for something small. Like we can make certain decisions on our own. Like first and foremost, should always include God and things like that. But I'm saying like, you know, make sure we're seeing people. Make sure we're not just being, as he said, being wise in our own eyes. Because we're not always wise. A lot of times we do make decisions off emotions, right? A lot of the time we do act first off impulse instead of thinking about it. And then most of the time we will make the wrong decision, always thinking and reacting and moving that way. So, and then also remember that God gives, like, he'll give you wisdom if you ask. Ask for him for wisdom. Ask for him, you know what? Like, wake up in the morning, help me to make the right decisions today. Uh, Man, like something happened, someone asked me to do something, I really don't feel like doing it. Like, ask in that midst, like, Lord, give me the wisdom. Like, should I be doing this or not? You know what I mean? Like, ask him for wisdom. Ask him for wisdom daily because that's something that we need. And you never know what decision we make, whether it has a positive impact in your life or a negative impact in your life. Because ultimately, the decisions that we make in our lives do have a positive impact or a negative impact in our life in some way and somehow. And sometimes the decision we make can have a long lasting effect in our life or a short lasting effect in our life, right? So it's important that we're thinking clearly and making these decisions and going to God first about our decisions and to somebody trusted well that will give you real advice, real suggestions, real stuff like that. And I think that's important. We lack that because we think we want to be in control in everything in our lives. We do. Naturally, that's what we do. That's our human nature. We want to do that. We want to be in control. We don't like having trusted people because, people are not always trustworthy and things like that. And we rather just do it ourselves. But a lot of time in life, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to do it. And honestly, that's okay to understand that. Like, that's okay that you're not gonna always know what the right thing to do or things like that. That's fine. That's why we have God in our lives. That's why you can trust Jesus with the things that you're dealing with in your life, right? And I also want to encourage from this standpoint too is the fact that look, if you mess up, because guess what, we're going to mess up. We're going to make mistakes, and we're going to make the wrong decisions at times. Just like after this video I'm recording, I'm probably gonna make a wrong decision down the line, right? But it's not always doing. It's not about doing this just so we can make the right decisions all the time and never be faulty and stressed out about it, but it's about just being conscious of the decisions and things that we're making. Just analyze it, right? And even if you analyze it, pray, and you still make the wrong decision, that's fine, right? That's fine. God will help you in that, right? Because even sometimes we analyze, go to God, and we might feel like even though we shouldn't do it, we're gonna be like, no, we're gonna do it anyway, right? And we still make the wrong decision anyway, right? Just be gracious that we have a creator, a father that forgives us, that loves us, that gives us grace even when we do mess up and make mistakes and things like that. That we have opportunities to keep going to bounce back and learn from our mistakes. Sometimes the biggest learning lessons, the biggest things that we have in our life is by the mistakes that we make. Like I wouldn't even be in the places where I'm at in life unless it wasn't for the mistakes and things that I've made in my life. That I realized, like, okay, that was a dumb thing for me to do, but I'm learning from it. So that way I'm not only learning how to not do it again per se, but learning like, okay, before I make a decision, I need to go to somebody, I need to listen to somebody and get another opinion before I make a rational decision like that. Right. So that's really what this episode of things all about, because I want us to not react always off impulse and first emotions and things like that, because a lot of the time if we do that, we're going to make the wrong decision and then we're going to be looking crazy. And I don't want us to be putting ourselves in a position that something that we might not be able to get ourselves, out of, when really we need to trust God with our decisions. Go to him first because he's the foundational wisdom, right? Then we can go to someone else who's trusted that can help us. Someone, who's centered on Christ, someone who's centered in God that can give you the honest truth that you actually need. Not something that we need to go to people that's going to tell you things you don't want to hear. That's who the type of people we need to go to. Go to the people that we know we don't want to hear what they got to say, because that's a lot of times the stuff that we need to hear, right? And remember that wisdom and us making the right decisions is so valuable. It might not look good in the bank account. You might not be able to measure in that perspective, but it's so valuable. It's so valuable, our wisdom, right? And remember that if we're lacking wisdom, and look, it's something that we can ask God for, and He will help us out with that. He will give us wisdom, right? So I just want us to be conscious and just applying these things as properly as we possibly can. So, but that's all I have for you guys and gals today. Hope everyone has a great week, great day, and everything like that. Stay blessed. You already know what it is. Uh, this is the Equip the Podcast. Stay ready so you have to get ready. Peace.